Hello, how you doing? And welcome back to the channel. So what on earth happened at Twickenham on Saturday? That's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. It's taken me a while to do an England-France debrief. I was working yesterday on Saturday. I was working today. I've literally just got back from Kingsholm. I was covering Gloucester, Leicester in the Gallagher Premiership. So it's been a bit of a hectic weekend. So I apologise that it's taken me a while to get to this. But in a way, I think it's a good thing because quite frankly, I needed time to digest what we saw at Twickenham. It's what I'm going to get into in this video. I'm going to try and explain from my point of view why England were beaten so badly against France. In particular, the game plan that they implemented. There was a lot of talk about who the 10 was, blah, blah, blah. Loads and loads to get into. The fallout from this is potentially going to be really, really big. And also, of course, France, absolutely superb as well. So anyway, drop a comment down below. I know there's going to be loads of England fans who want to have their say on just what we saw. I mean, a record defeat, comfortably a record defeat. Drop a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, like the video. All right, let's get into it. So there are record defeats at Twickenham, and then there's this one, which just blew it out of the water. And it felt like it came out of nowhere. I think it hasn't come out of nowhere quite as much as people maybe suspected, just because England haven't been that great for a little while, and we know how good France can be. But given the fact that France hadn't necessarily been what we thought was that close to their best, boy, did they produce it at Twickenham. Their first victory there in a long, long time. And England are close to rock bottom, you'd have to say. That could get even worse because they play Ireland in Dublin on St. Paddy's Day weekend, with Ireland chasing a Grand Slam this weekend. But France were brilliant. This video is mainly going to be about England, but I wanted to mention France first of all, just because they were so good. Jonathan Danty straight away, I mentioned him in my preview. I think he made an impact. You saw how good he is at 12 with ball in hand. He pinched a ball early on at the breakdown, but he was just one player. I mean, Penaud, Dupont, that whole of that back row, the forward pack, they had more power than England. They were better disciplined. Their accuracy was so much better. How ruthless they can be, and I'm going to get onto that now actually. France just brought the all-round package. They got England on the back foot early. They were 10-0 up inside the opening 10 minutes, and it just continued from there. So as I say, congratulations to them. I think that was the kind of victory that, you know what, just puts the wind back in the French sails a little bit. In a World Cup year on home soil where people were starting to have a few doubts, it's just a little reminder to everyone that when they're on form, they can really punish you. But I mentioned how ruthless they were because England gave them opportunities and France were able to punish them. And that was kind of the story of the game. The stats, when I looked them up, really surprised me. France spent 1 minute and 51 seconds inside England's 22. To compare that, England spent 3 minutes and 18 seconds inside the French 22. But France came away with 4.2 points per entry compared with England's 1. France were on a whole different level when it came to how ruthless they were in attack and taking those opportunities. England actually had more possession. England had more territory as well. But as we're regularly seeing in this Six Nations, it's very often the case, the side that is the most ruthless in the red zone are the ones that are able to get the victory. And just in terms of how potent France were in attack compared with England, they made 9 line breaks compared with England's 1. Those are kind of the bare bones statistics that paint a pretty clear picture of what we saw. But let's get on to England. 13 handling errors, 8 bad passes, 5 knock-ons. There was just a complete lack of accuracy from England throughout. And a lot of that was to do with France and how good their defence is. But I think it was partly to do with England as well. And I think the management and the coaches, even though they are new in Steve Borthwick and Kevin Sinfield and Nick Evans and everyone else in that setup, have to take a big portion of the blame for me. Because I thought a big reason of why England were not effective against France was the game plan. And they named Marcus Smith at 10, and there's been loads of discussion of should it be Farrell, should it be Smith, George Ford on the periphery as well. This goes beyond the fly half. It isn't just down to this, but I do think the selection of Marcus Smith was a reflection of the game they wanted to play. And actually, on paper, it kind of made sense. They wanted to play quickly, they wanted to stretch the French defence, and they wanted to have a really high ball in play time. Why? Because the ball in play time in this Six Nations has actually been a lot higher than previous editions and has been a lot higher than the top 14. And some people have been suggesting that that higher ball in play time is part of the reason that until Saturday, France haven't been as good. The game against Ireland, for example, in Dublin, that brilliant game between Ireland and France, the ball in play time in the first half alone was close to what the average ball in play time is in most top 14 games. So the theory was that there was a lot more ball in play time. France actually didn't have the fitness levels to be able to deal with this fast-paced, high ball in play time, lots of phases, quick game, because actually what France like to do, they kick the ball away a lot, but when they do get opportunities, they counter-attack brilliantly, which again, we saw at Twickenham. But that, I think, was the general theory from England. When Steve Borthwick said Marcus Smith is the 10 to execute the game plan that best suits us against France, I think it was about ball in play time. I think it was about going quickly and trying to put the ball through the hands and stretch that French defence. And if you think back to the start of the game, I think that's what we saw. England were taking quick line-outs. When they were actually forming a line-out, you got that sense that they really wanted to get on with it. They were trying to inject pace into the game. But as I go back to the handling errors, the bad passes, the knock-ons, they coughed up ball. And France, arguably at this moment in time, are the best, certainly one of the best sides with counter-attack ball. They hit England early and then England were on the back foot. And the reason I think it's partly the coach's fault and the implementing of that strategy, England haven't played that style of rugby. I mean, since when? When have England played that high ball in play time, really trying to go quick and attacking? England have been tactical, they've been kicking, they've been physicality. Now, I don't think that could necessarily have beaten France either. I think it's the reality of where England are at the moment is that barring France being really off their game and England probably being absolutely at their best, I don't think they were going to beat France. But certainly, I think the game plan that was implemented, as much as people are excited to see Marcus Smith, as much as people want to see England play a more attacking game, I just don't think they're capable of that at the moment. And it was strange, I actually thought, because Steve Borthwick is such a methodical person, such an authentic coach. And I know it hadn't been pretty, but England had shown gradual improvements in the opening rounds of the Six Nations. I thought they would continue to try and build upon that, but it wasn't to be. And for me, that's the reason England lost by a record margin against France. And I'll go back to it again. France were absolutely brilliant, but I think that was an absolutely key area. I know you can't really take positives. People just scoff at me when it comes to positives with a game that you have lost that heavily. England set piece, looking statistically at it from that point of view, they won 3 scrum penalties. I thought the scrum was relatively solid. They didn't lose any on their own feed. The line out as well, I think there are probably still building blocks there, but overall, England beaten up. And a dejected side heading away to Ireland this weekend. So I don't know. I don't know where England go from here. I think it's really interesting to see what Steve Borthwick does. Are there going to be a number of players that we don't see in an England shirt again? There's a lot of question marks over Alex Dombrand. Alex Mitchell had an immediate impact when he came off the bench. Is it time? I think it probably is that he starts over Jack Van Portfleet, who I think has been okay, but maybe not as impactful as he was when he first came into the England team in the Tour of Australia. So there are a whole bunch of question marks over this England side now. And I think it's going to be really, really tough what Steve Borthwick does, where they go from here, and what they do personnel-wise. I think it was a baffling game, I thought. But ultimately, as I said in this video, I thought the reason for it was the way in which they tried to approach that game just wasn't going to work. As much as we like or would like to see England play a more attacking game plan, a wider game plan where they stretch defences, that will have to come in time. I don't think you can suddenly go in against one of the best teams in the world and just try and implement that when you haven't been playing that way. They went away from what they had been doing. So I feel like there's so much more thoughts that I could say, but it's just going to come out of me an absolute blurb into the camera. I feel like that gives us a good base for you guys now to drop comments down below and what you all made of it. Essentially, there's going to be so many thoughts, so do get them down below. What happened here? It's embarrassing. It is an embarrassing result, as good as France were. So drop a comment down below. Also like the video and subscribe to the channel. More content as we head into the final weekend of the Six Nations coming up next weekend. So make sure you don't miss anything. Hit that subscribe button. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.